My name is Laura Deal. I'm the Director of Development at Rhythm Seed Farm, located in the Cully neighborhood of Northeast Portland. In a couple of minutes, you'll be hearing from our Executive Director and Founder, Nick Canino. But first, allow me to be a little less technical and introduce our organization. We are a new nonprofit urban seed farm specializing in rare and uncommon edible and medicinal plants, as well as dye, fiber, and otherwise useful plants. Next slide, please. In 2020, the space you see in both of these panorama photos was but an empty lot, roughly 1/3 of an acre in size. After being granted permission to cultivate the space, it became our flagship location. Nick and our co-founder, Alana Cornell, broke ground in 2020, had our first harvest in 2021, and gained formal 501c3 status in 2022. As you can see in both of these photos, it is intensely cultivated. We grow over 100 different kinds of plants using methods drawn from permaculture, organic practices, and agroecology. Our practices improve our local environment while turning underutilized urban spaces into safeguards against food insecurity. Having been unmanaged for some time, we're working to build up organic matter in this soil. This will allow us to transition to deep mulch dry gardening, as is practiced in our satellite location, which Nick will tell you more about very soon. All right, next slide, please. We believe that a just agricultural system, one where a person's access to healthy, nutritious foods is not determined by their income or zip code, is possible. To that end, we have 3 major areas of work: our seed production and donations, our educational work, and our landscaping services. Providing locally cultivated seeds to our community is the foundation of our work. We grow, harvest, process, and pack all of our stock ourselves. For every packet of seeds we sell, we donate another to one of our partners, which are composed of BIPOC food justice organizations, as well as nonprofits serving our food insecure citizens. The photo you see here was taken just a couple of weeks ago out on Sauvie Island near Portland. And the device you see, called the Winnow Wizard, is a low-tech open source instrument that helps us clean our seed. We use methods and tools like this one pictured, which are practical for individuals and small communities. We teach seed saving and sustainable urban gardening techniques through our workshops, internships, and informal work parties. These parties, held during the growing season, provide any interested member of the public an opportunity to get their hands dirty and learn our techniques without having to spend any money or commit to cultivating their own space. Finally, our landscaping services, from design to installation and maintenance, empower homeowners to become responsible stewards of their land and increase their food sovereignty. All right, next slide, please. If our work sounds interesting to you and you'd like to support us, there are many ways to do so. The most straightforward way is to become a member, which grants you discounts on seeds, access to rare plant sales and free seed giveaways, priority workshop registration, and more. Later this year, we will also be recruiting additional board members to join our team. We're searching in particular for board members with experience in farm and/or nonprofit accounting, as well as collaborative research design. If this sounds like you or someone you know, send me an email at laura@rhythmseedfarm.org. I will pop that in the chat as soon as I hand over to Nick. Finally, we are looking for interns to learn with us through the growing season and additional spaces to cultivate. If any people or spaces in the greater Portland metro area come to mind, please do get in touch. Now, let me hand the mic over to Nick Canino, our founder and executive director. He has a background in permaculture, edible landscaping, and farming. He's going to tell you about his work in our satellite space, which uses deep mulch gardening to eliminate the need to water throughout the growing season. Nick, take it away.
What's up, folks? Nick Canino here, founder of Rhythm Seed Farm. Could we go to the next slide real quick and see if it's got a photo? Yes, beautiful. Okay, I am here today to talk about this wonderful plot that you're taking a look at here called God's Garden, which is in Portland, Oregon. It's a deep mulch garden that uses wood chip only techniques to fertilize and make it so that they don't have to irrigate. So I stumbled across this garden totally by coincidence. I happened to move into the house across the street. And when I moved in November, you know, it just looked like a fairly barren plot. This is a photo that's taken in the fall time. There were a few brassicas, a rosemary plant, and then just a ½ acre of wood chips. And I honestly was kind of skeptical and a little bit laughing to myself, like, wow, don't they know that this is going to acidify the soil? Don't they know that this is going to tie up all their nitrogen? I can't believe that they're trying to grow this way. It seems like such a struggle. But, in the back of my mind, I was curious. I said, okay, I want to get involved and see what they're doing here and really try and learn. So I moved in November 2019. I got in touch with them in the spring of 2020, right as COVID was starting. And excuse me, we started working the land together. And very quickly, I realized that my conception of, incorporating wood chips into gardening and the dangers of lowering the pH or tying up the nitrogen were a bit mistaken. I was shocked by the quality of the plants that grew, the health of the soil. The whole thing was very intriguing to me. And so I decided I got to work with them and see really what's going on here and understand it. So a little background on the garden and the technique. So there's a man called Paul Gauchi up in Washington, in Sequim, Washington, who's a proponent of what he calls the back to Eden style garden. I call it deep mulch gardening. Basically, the concept is you're always covering the ground with something. You're applying a layer of mulch every season and keeping the soil deeply covered and allowing that soil cover, that mulch, to break down and turn into fertilizer. And so basically, the folks at the church went up to Paul's property in 2015 and they met with him. They got inspired by his techniques and they said, we're gonna try this on our plot. So the land that you see here, it was a half acre of just grass before they got started, and they got a bunch of wood chips dropped from local arborists, and they used a tractor to spread it over the entire plot in 2015, and they planted a garden, and it grew well. They did it again the next year. They kept getting drops of wood chips and applying them once a year with the tractor. Could you go to the next slide? I think we got a shot of the wood chips there. Yeah, so in this photo, this is a shot taken in the middle of the summer. You can see there's kind of like what I call the chip mountains. There's a big row of chips that runs down the middle. And that is the basis of their fertilizer and of their style of, dry farming, keeping the soil moist throughout the season. So they get chips dropped in a big row every year, and then they spread them out once a year, and they repeat that. And they've been doing that since 2015. And at this point, the soil is amazingly fertile. And as you can see from these photos, pretty much everything grows in it. The only thing we've struggled to grow is carrots. For whatever reason, they don't seem to germinate and grow well, but everything else from root crops to staple crops, we've been growing sweet potatoes, watermelons, cantaloupe, sunflowers. Potatoes can be a bit tricky due to the harvest under the chips, but it's a very diverse system and has really opened my eyes to the potential of this deep mulch method. Go to the next slide. Let's see what we got some photos of. Sweet. Yeah, so there's another up close view of the chip pile. All right, yeah. So go to the next slide. Let's look at some plants, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the planting techniques here. So because of the deep mulch, it's really a bit of a pain to actually plant seeds. You can't just, quickly draw a row and put them in. You actually have to dig through the mulch. And that is the biggest drawback to this method. Is it's a bit labor intensive to plant. All of the work is front loaded. So you have to use like a mattock or some type of tool to dig sometimes up to a foot down into the mulch before you get to the actual soil. There's a layer of pure wood chips on top. And then there's kind of what I call a matrix layer, which is like decomposing wood chips and soil and earthworms. And then you actually get to the real soil underneath. And depending on where you're at in the plot, that can be anywhere between 5 inches and a foot deep. So it can be hard to get down to the actual soil. But once you're there, really straightforward to, direct seed or even put transplants in. And then as the plants grow, they tend to hill some of the mulch back around those plants to really retain the moisture in there. But you can see by these photos, once plants are in and established, they do amazingly well. We've had, record yields from beans, eggplants doing really well, lots of cucurbits and peppers, and just in general, really good performance. So let's go to the next slide. And then I think after that, yes, beautiful. We got soil samples. So here's for my soil nerds here. So we did soil samples at God's Garden, this plot. This was in 2022. And we also took some samples from Rhythm Seed Farm from our land, which had been fallow for about 8 years. And we had just got it and started working it. So the Rhythm Seed Farm is the lowest sample ID. It's the one that says RSFRO. It's highlighted in yellow, which you can barely see. And then the ones that say GG, those are from the church. And the most important thing to look at here is the soil organic matter content. So Rhythm Seed Farm, our soil, which was fallow, about 4.8% organic matter, which is actually fairly high. Oftentimes, you know, the soil around here is 3 to 5% if it hasn't been managed. And then you look at the church plot numbers. Now, these are soil samples taken from us digging through the chips, through the matrix layer, down to the actual earth and pulling up the sample. We're talking 19% organic matter, 30% organic matter, 33% organic matter. The one on the top that says 58%, that was a sample of the matrix layer. So the layer just underneath the fresh wood chips on top, the middle layer that kind of has wood chips and decomposing soil. We took that and we screened the wood chips out of it and took just the organic matter from that. And it's pretty much pure compost. So yeah, I'm running short on time here, but basically the gist of this system is by applying a layer of mulch on top, you are creating basically a compost pile that is permanently fertilizing your plot. And it's also helping to retain a ton of moisture. You know, they say for every 1% increase in soil organic matter on an acre, it can hold, you know, between 10 and 20,000 gallons of water. Not exactly sure where that statistic came from. I've tried to find sources on it, but the point is having increased organic matter really, really helps in a dry farming system. And this plot, you know, weathered through the 2021 heat wave without a problem, through 2022 with no issues. And we anticipate it to keep growing into the future with lots of success, with zero irrigation, zero fertilizer, and very healthy plants. The only input is wood chips, and they don't care about what type of wood chips they put down. They'll put down cedar, they'll put down pine, they'll mix in black walnut. They are absolutely non-selective on the chip type. And so far it has been working amazingly for them. So this is my anecdotal experience working with this farm. If anybody's interested in coming and visiting or working with God's Garden, reach out to me, nick@rhythmseedfarm.org, and I can get you in touch. They work every Sunday through the summer, and they're really, really keen on getting people involved and educating people about this system that seems to work very well here in Portland. So yeah, thank you all. Really appreciate it. And there's going to be a focus group specifically talking about this for anybody who's interested more, because I can talk about this deep mulch for hours. All right. Thanks, y'all. Peace.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Laura and Nick, for sharing that. That's very interesting and a very good solution of a place-based, very good example of a place-based solution where you don't have a lot of space, but you have a lot of wood chips maybe. And so there are a few questions, although we don't have very much time. So maybe you can answer a couple of them.
Sure.
And then go into you can answer the rest in breakout rooms. So one was, where's the source of the wood chips? So are they just available from the city or?
Yeah, I believe they get theirs through Asplund, which is, I think, contracted by the city to remove trees and whatnot around power lines. So, but there seems to be different sources that come through. They're kind of known in the neighborhood for being a free drop site. They've been doing it for long enough that as long as the middle drive of the garden is open, trucks just show up and start dropping stuff. So yeah, they source them from the city.
Great. Someone shared chipdrop.com as a source.
Yeah. Chip drop is okay. Chips, we've, tried to get chip drop at Rhythm Seed and sometimes had to wait up to 4 or 5 months to get it. So it is decent. It depends on how many people in your neighborhood are also on chip drop. We happen to be an area where there's lots of demand for people who are interested in this method and are trying to get chips.
Yeah. There's just maybe one more question on other types of mulch like straw or hay that might be decomposing a bit faster.
Yeah. Yeah, straw or hay, decent, definitely better than no mulch. I have found you can oftentimes get lots of weeds in straw. You know, there can be lots of grass seed that you end up having to pull. And because of the speed of decomposition, you have to apply it more frequently throughout the season, or like you're going to have to, you know, apply a lot. And especially on a half acre. I mean, excuse me, the church here tries to apply about 4 inches of chips across the whole half acre every year. If you were to try and put that much straw down over a half acre, you'd be spending a lot of money on straw annually. So chips definitely seem to be a preferred source.
A quick question, because yeah, Andy Gallagher asked, did you lime the site? Because your pH is right on point.
No lime, no nothing. They literally have applied 0 fertilizer. It's shocking to me. Yeah, I'm like honestly flabbergasted, coming from a background where I had all these conceptions about what adding wood chips could do to soil and the, you know, proposed issues of it. It's been mind-boggling. Yeah, those soil test results came back like just perfect.